My roommate sleeps in my bed every night. When I joined the fraternity, I expected wild parties, sleepless nights, and ridiculous initiation challenges. What I didn't expect was Jake Carter. Jake was the kind of guy everyone liked. Laid back, charming, effortlessly cool. He was an athlete, always the center of attention, the life of the party. And me? I was the guy people barely noticed. Not because I was invisible, but because I had never felt the need to be in the spotlight. At first, sharing a room with him was an adjustment. He was messy, always leaving his clothes everywhere, and had a habit of coming back late at night reeking of beer. But after a while, I got used to it. Or at least I thought I had. Then something started happening. At first, I thought it was just a drunken mistake. Jake would come back late, crash into his bed for a while, but somehow, by morning, he'd be in mine. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and there he was, sound asleep next to me, like it was the most natural thing in the world. The first time, I laughed it off. The second time, I was confused. By the third, I started wondering why. Before we dive into this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications. This helps us bring you more stories just like this one. Now, let's begin. The first time it happened, I barely noticed. It was the middle of the night when I woke up to the feeling of someone, pressed against me. I was groggy, half asleep, my brain still fogged from exhaustion. I turned over and saw Jake. He was lying in my bed, again. At first, I thought it was a one-time thing. He had come back from a party, probably too drunk to care which bed he collapsed into. But then it happened again, and he never seemed to remember it in the morning. Jake and I had been roommates for almost a year now. Living in the fraternity house meant constant noise, people barging in unannounced, and a shared bathroom that was never clean. But the worst part? Sharing a small-ass room with the most unpredictable guy I had ever met. Jake wasn't just my roommate. He was one of the most popular guys in the frat. He was loud, cocky, and ridiculously good-looking, with messy blonde hair, a sharp jawline, and a body that looked like it was sculpted in a damn Greek temple. I had no idea why he chose me, out of all the guys in the house, to be his roommate. And now he was in my bed. I should have pushed him off. I should have shaken him awake and told him to get his ass back to his own bed. But I didn't. I just laid there, heart pounding, staring at the ceiling. The next morning, he got up like nothing had happened. He stretched, yawned, and ran a hand through his already messy hair. No awkwardness, no acknowledgement, nothing. I blinked at him. "Dude." He turned to me, still half asleep. "What?" "You keep sleeping in my bed." He frowned, rubbing the back of his neck. "Nah, I don't." I scoffed. "You were literally here this morning." Jake just shrugged. "I don't know, man. Maybe your bed's more comfortable." He grabbed his phone from the nightstand, yawning again. "Besides, does it really bother you?" I opened my mouth to argue, to tell him that yes, it did bother me, but the words got stuck somewhere between my brain and my throat. Did it bother me? I should have said yes. I should have drawn a line, told him to stay in his own damn bed. Instead, I muttered, "I guess not." Big mistake. Because that night, I stayed awake just to see if it would happen again. Jake got back late, like usual. He tossed his keys on the desk, stripped off his hoodie, and collapsed onto his bed with a sigh. I turned over, facing the wall, pretending to be asleep. For a few minutes, nothing happened. His breathing slowed. The room was quiet except for the faint hum of the mini-fridge. I started to drift off, thinking maybe I had been overreacting. Then I felt it. The shift of the mattress. The warmth of another body. I kept my eyes shut, barely breathing. Jake had moved. He was in my bed. Again. And this time, he wasn't drunk. He wasn't lost in some half-conscious daze. He had chosen to be here. My chest felt tight. My skin buzzed with awareness. He was close, too close, his arm resting just inches away from mine. I wanted to say something, to ask him what the hell he was doing, but instead I just lay there, my heart hammering against my ribs, pretending I was still asleep. Because if I acknowledged it, if I asked him why, I wasn't sure I wanted to hear the answer. The next morning, Jake acted like nothing had happened. I, on the other hand, was a mess. I barely got any sleep after realizing he had chosen, deliberately chosen, to crawl into my bed again. My brain had been running in circles, trying to figure out what the hell it meant. Was it just a habit, some weird quirk of his? Or was it something else? I sat on the edge of my bed, still groggy, watching as Jake shuffled around the room. He grabbed a hoodie from the back of his chair, ran a hand through his messy hair, and checked his phone like it was just a normal morning. But it wasn't normal. Because last night, he had been right there. His arm had brushed against mine at some point, and I had felt the warmth of his skin, the slow, steady rhythm of his breathing, the way his body had relaxed like he belonged there. I needed answers. "Jake," I said, my voice rough from sleep. He looked up, eyebrows raised. "Yeah?" I swallowed. "Dude, you did it again." His face stayed blank. "Did what?" I let out a dry laugh, shaking my head. "You slept in my bed? Again?" Jake blinked like he genuinely hadn't realized. Or maybe he was just pretending not to. Then, after a second, he shrugged. "Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah? That was all I got?" I stared at him. "You're seriously not going to explain?" Jake smirked like it was no big deal. "Told you, man. Your bed's more comfortable." I folded my arms. "That's bullshit." He let out a low chuckle, stretching his arms above his head. "All right, what do you want me to say? You want me to apologize? Buy you breakfast to make up for it?" The teasing in his voice made my stomach twist, because he wasn't taking this seriously. But I was. I forced a breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "I just don't get it. You've got your own bed. Why sleep in mine?" Jake finally stopped moving. He stood there, hands in his hoodie pockets, watching me like he was debating something. The usual easygoing expression on his face shifted, just for a second, but it was enough. There was something he wasn't saying. The air in the room felt different now. He wasn't laughing anymore. Neither was I. Jake scratched his jaw, his gaze flickering away for a brief moment. "I don't know, man. I guess I just sleep better there." Sleep better. My throat went dry. There was a weight behind those words, something that felt too real, too raw. And for the first time, I realized something. Maybe this wasn't just some random habit. Maybe he needed to be here. I didn't know what to say to that. So I just nodded slowly, pretending that answer was enough. But it wasn't. That night, I stayed awake again. I needed to see when he moved. Jake went to bed at his usual time, throwing himself onto his mattress with zero grace. Within minutes, his breathing slowed, his body going still. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, just like the night before, he moved. Not all at once. It was gradual. A slow shift, then a pause, another shift, like he was making sure I wouldn't wake up. And then he was there. His back was inches from mine, so close I could feel his warmth through the blanket. I held my breath. I could have turned around, could have said something, could have asked him straight up why he kept doing this. But I didn't. Because part of me was scared of what his answer might be. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I lay there, my body tense, every muscle wired with awareness. Jake was in my bed again. And this time, I was fully awake, fully conscious of every shift, every breath, every inch of space, or lack of it, between us. He wasn't touching me. Not really. But he was close. Close enough that if I moved even slightly, we'd be pressed together. And for some reason, that thought sent my heart pounding against my ribs. Minutes passed. Maybe an hour. My mind raced through every possibility, every reason why Jake kept doing this. It didn't make sense. If it was just about comfort, why not bring his own damn blanket? Why did he always end up in my bed? I swallowed hard, staring at the ceiling. I could hear his breathing, slow, steady, as if he was already asleep. And then, before I could stop myself, I shifted slightly, just enough to test something. Jake didn't move at first, but then, so subtly I almost missed it, he shifted too, toward me. My breath caught. It wasn't much, just a small, unconscious movement, but it was enough. He wasn't asleep. He was awake, and he wasn't pulling away. My fingers curled into the sheet beneath me. My whole body felt like it was on fire. I could feel the heat radiating from him, the slow rise and fall of his chest. I should have said something. I should have turned over and called him out. But instead, I lay there, trapped in a mess of emotions I didn't know how to untangle. At some point, exhaustion won. I drifted off, my thoughts still tangled in what the hell this all meant. When I woke up the next morning, Jake was already up, stretching near his bed like nothing had happened. I sat up slowly, rubbing my eyes. My head was still foggy, my chest still tight with something I wasn't ready to name. He turned to me, smirking. "Damn, man, you sleep like a rock." I forced a laugh, pretending I didn't know he had been awake last night, pretending everything was normal. But it wasn't, and the worst part? I didn't want it to be. I spent the whole day trying to shake off the feeling from last night, but it clung to me like a second skin. Every time I thought I had distracted myself enough, a memory would creep back in. The heat of Jake's body next to mine, the way he shifted closer instead of pulling away, the fact that he was awake and pretending he wasn't. And the worst part? I wasn't sure I wanted it to stop. By the time I got back to the fraternity house that night, my mind was still a mess. I told myself I'd sleep early, get some distance from whatever this thing was, but fate had other plans. When I walked into the room, Jake was already there, sitting on his bed, scrolling through his phone. He looked up as I entered, his expression easy, relaxed, like he didn't have a care in the world. "Yo, you disappeared all day," he said. I shrugged, tossing my bag onto my chair. "Had some stuff to do." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Stuff, huh? That sounds vague as hell." I didn't answer. I was too busy convincing myself that tonight would be different, that I wouldn't let whatever had been happening keep happening. I showered, changed, and climbed into my bed, making a conscious effort to turn toward the wall. This was it. No weird tension, no silent, unspoken whatever the hell this was. And then, like clockwork, I heard it. The shift of fabric, the quiet creak of the mattress, the subtle warmth that told me he was there. Jake was in my bed. Again. I tensed, my heart hammering. I wasn't imagining it. I wasn't reading too much into things. He was doing this on purpose. Something inside me snapped. I rolled over. "Jake." His body stiffened. He didn't answer right away. Finally, he muttered, "Yeah." I stared at him in the dim light. His face was turned slightly away, but I could see the way his jaw clenched, the way his hands fisted lightly into the sheet. He was nervous. Jake Carter, the most confident, laid-back guy in the frat, was nervous. And just like that, everything clicked. The way he always found an excuse to touch me, to playfully shove my shoulder, to sit too close when there was plenty of space. The way he crashed in my bed and acted like it wasn't a big deal. The way he never, ever pulled away. I swallowed hard, my voice barely above a whisper. Why do you keep doing this? Silence stretched between us. My heart pounded so loud I was sure he could hear it. Then, finally, in a voice so quiet I almost missed it, he said, "Because I sleep better here." I held my breath. There it was again. The same words from before. Only this time, I knew what he meant. This wasn't about comfort. This wasn't just a habit. Jake Carter, the guy I had spent months trying to figure out, the guy who could have anyone he wanted, was choosing to be here, with me. And I had no idea what to do with that. Silence filled the room. Jake's words hung in the air between us. Heavy, unspoken things wrapped in layers of meaning. Because I sleep better here. I should have said something. I should have asked him what that meant. Why my bed? Why me? But instead, I just stared at him, my chest tight, my pulse racing so fast I could barely think straight. Jake wasn't looking at me. He was staring at the ceiling like if he avoided my gaze, maybe this whole conversation wouldn't be happening. But it was, and I wasn't letting it go this time. "You don't just sleep better here," I said, my voice quiet but steady. "That's not the real reason." Jake exhaled sharply, his hands gripping the edge of the blanket. His usual laid-back attitude was gone. He looked uncomfortable. "Dude, just drop it," he muttered. I didn't. "No." His jaw tightened. "It's not a big deal." "It is to me." That got his attention. His eyes flicked to mine, guarded but searching. Something was there. Something I wasn't sure I was ready to face. "Why?" he asked. It was a simple question, a fair one. And yet, I didn't have a simple answer. I swallowed hard. "Because you keep doing it. Because it's not random. And because—" I hesitated, the words feeling too big in my throat. "Because I don't think you're telling me the whole truth." Jake didn't say anything. His fingers twitched against the blanket like he wanted to do something with his hands but didn't know what. I sat up slightly, pushing. "Tell me, Jake." He let out a slow breath, running a hand through his hair. "You really want to know?" I nodded. Another pause. Another deep breath. Then, so quiet I almost missed it, he said, "Because I don't like sleeping alone." I blinked. Of all the things I had been expecting, that wasn't one of them. Jake let out a dry laugh, shaking his head. "I know it's stupid. I've never told anyone that before. But for some reason, man, I don't know. I sleep better when I'm here." I stared at him, trying to process his words. This was Jake Carter, the guy who could sleep through frat parties, who had zero problems crashing on random couches, who never seemed to have a care in the world. And yet, he was sitting here, telling me he didn't like being alone at night. I swallowed. "How long?" His eyes flicked to mine. "What? How long have you felt like this?" Jake hesitated. Then, after a moment, he whispered, "Longer than I want to admit." His words hit me deep, because suddenly it all made sense. The way he always found a way to be close to me. The way he made excuses to touch me, to sit too close. The way he crawled into my bed every night, knowing I'd never stop him. Maybe, just maybe, he had been waiting for me to notice. My throat was dry, my mind racing, but I forced myself to ask the question I had been avoiding for weeks. "Jake, is this about more than just sleep?" The second the words left my mouth, his expression changed. His entire body tensed, like I had just stripped him of whatever walls he had left. and for the first time since we became roommates, he looked afraid. Not of me, not of the question, afraid of the answer. Jake didn't speak. He just sat there, his hands gripping the edge of the blanket, his body tense like he was caught in a moment he wasn't ready for. But I wasn't letting him run from this. I had spent weeks, months, wondering, overanalyzing, trying to make sense of something that had never been just about comfort. And now, we were here. I swallowed hard, my pulse hammering in my ears. "Jake," I said softly, careful, like if I spoke too loudly, he'd break. "Is this about more than just sleep?" His jaw clenched. His fingers twitched. He still wasn't looking at me. Then, after what felt like forever, he exhaled, tilting his head back, staring at the ceiling like it had answers he couldn't find. "I don't know," he admitted. His voice was quiet, like he hated saying it out loud. I didn't move. I didn't say anything. I just waited. And finally, he looked at me. His gaze was guarded, hesitant, but underneath it I saw something else. Something raw. "I just know that when I'm here," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "it feels right." My chest tightened. There it was, the truth. Jake Carter, my cocky, confident, never serious roommate, had spent all this time slipping into my bed at night because when he was here, with me, he felt right. And I knew then, so did I. I let out a slow breath, my heart pounding so hard it was a miracle he couldn't hear it. I could have laughed it off. I could have made a joke. I could have let him hide behind whatever defenses he had left. But I didn't want to. Because the truth was, I had felt it too. And for the first time, I didn't want to run from it. So instead of pulling away, instead of pretending this wasn't happening, I moved closer. Not much. Just enough for my arm to brush against his. Jake's breath hitched, his whole body stilling. He didn't pull away. Neither did I. Silence stretched between us. Charged, heavy, different. Then, slowly, almost cautiously, he whispered, "Are you going to freak out if I say I don't want to sleep alone tonight?" His voice was quiet. Careful, like he was giving me a way out. But I didn't take it. I shook my head. "No." Jake exhaled, his shoulders relaxing slightly. Then, without another word, he shifted, slipping under the blanket beside me. This time, there were no excuses, no pretending. And as I lay there, heart racing, one thought kept circling in my mind. Maybe Jake had been waiting for me to notice. And maybe, deep down, I had been waiting for him too. The next night, Jake didn't hesitate. He didn't pretend. He didn't wait until I was asleep. He just climbed into my bed, like it was the most natural thing in the world. This time I didn't pretend either. I didn't question it. I didn't ask for an explanation. I just let it happen. And when I felt him shift closer, his body pressed against mine, his breath warm on my shoulder, I let that happen too. A week passed, then another. It became our thing. Jake never said much about it, and neither did I. But every night, he ended up in my bed, and every morning, he stayed a little longer. One night, when I turned over to face him, he didn't move away. He just looked at me, eyes searching, breath slow. And then, barely above a whisper, he said, "I don't think I want to sleep anywhere else." I swallowed hard, my throat tight. "Me neither." Jake smirked. "Took you long enough." I rolled my eyes. "Shut up." He chuckled. Then, without hesitation, without doubt, without running, he kissed me, and this time I kissed him back.